Welcome to Iowa Pagan News, your informative internet radio station catering to all pagans worldwide. We are dedicated to bringing you the very best in music, news, events, and lots of fun stuff. Come tune into our new podcast at www.plrdn.podbean.com. Now, here is your host, Lou Silverwolf Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Tuesday afternoon edition of Iowa Pagan News and Pagan Artist Spotlight on the Prairie Land Radio Network. This afternoon, I am joined by my special guest, Debra DeAngelo, who is the author of the new book, Pagan Curious. And I spent some time reading this book. And I got to admit that this is going to be added to my list of good beginner books. This is something good for people who are just coming into the community, and can also be useful for someone who's been on their path for a number of years. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to join me this afternoon. And it looks like also you've got a foreword by Silver Ravenwolf, which everybody knows Silver Ravenwolf.
That was really special. That day that she said she would do it, it's like the whole world sparkled for me that day. I particularly appreciate her because she has, as I thought things out, she has the same approach and tone that I want when interacting with people. She's always welcoming. She's always positive. She doesn't put other people down or other traditions down. She stays focused on, well, this is what I'm doing, and here's how it can help you. And I just feel like the community and the world needs more of that, some positivity and support and welcoming, like a big hug. Mm-hmm. So it was very special to have her write the foreword.
It's always nice to be recognized by someone who is so well known in the community and who takes the time to really welcome someone who is now. Okay, question though, how many books have you put out, or is this your first one?
That's my second one with Llewellyn. The first was called The Elements of Horse Spirit, the magical bond between humans and horses, and it's very focused on horses throughout history, magically, and how you can make use of horse energy even if you don't have a horse. Very focused on horses. Prior to that, I self-published 2 anthologies that are still on Amazon. One was called Belly Shame, Stories from the Gut, and it was all about our extreme discomfort about our bellies, about our tummies. We don't want to show them. We don't want people to touch them. There's all this drama about our bellies. So it's a collection of stories about that. The second one was called Cats, Dogs, and Other Things That Poop in the Yard. And that's all about all the animals that we love, domestic and wild. And the first 2 books were not pagan in nature, but are very mainstream. Then I have a third book that's in the editing process right now. And that one is called Sacred Massage, The Magic of Soothing Touch. I'm also a massage therapist. And so that book is about learning to give soothing touch to a loved one or child or friend who needs regular massage, which is sometimes physically or financially out of reach, particularly with COVID going on. Some people could benefit from regular massage. So it teaches you that within a magical framework. Ultimately, you learn to do a massage routine as you would perform a ritual.
I would definitely agree with you on that point. Because everything that I have been dealing with over this last year with having Guillain-Barré syndrome has basically got my entire body all out of whack. I actually at my where I go to for PT and OT, they're starting off a massage therapy as well. Well, I tried it out one day, felt more like a chiropractic session than it did massage. I'm like, okay, I should have just gone to the chiropractor. It's like, geez.
There's a lot of different styles of massage. So this one's definitely focused on soothing, relaxing, bringing in healing energy, and anybody could learn to do it.
Nice. Oh, that other book that you've got with for horse, for horse energy, that's definitely one that I'm going to want to get my hands on, because you and I both are into horses. So
I'm a lifelong horsey girl. I walked around in cutoffs and cowboy boots for most of my young life.
and so, how long have you been in the pagan community now?
Probably I would qualify as a latecomer to this party. It's only been going on 20 years. I found paganism midlife. My midlife crisis took me down this path. So, but I think I have always been a pagan, even as a child. I just didn't have a vocabulary for it or a template for it or what it meant. But when I found the pagan community, it was like a return to center.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I felt comfortable. I found, okay, I can be myself here.
Yep, I felt the same way because I came in back in 2003.
We're about the same time, yeah.
So yeah, you and I are on similar paths, it seems like.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right path because jobs and bills and kids get in the way of doing those things.
That's very true. Now, I took some time to read a few of the chapters in your book here, and I've got to admit that the one thing that really stuck out in my mind here is that the one thing that you've gone back to, and what I've discussed with a lot of other people, is that you're going back to rule number one of knowing yourself.
Absolutely. The reason that I find that so key is that there's a lot of discussion throughout the book of congruence, being congruent with nature, being congruent with the universe. So until you have a firm understanding and acceptance of yourself, you have nothing to be congruent with. You have to know who you are in order to find that congruence and balance with nature, with animals, with energy, with everything, and to feel solid in yourself and secure in yourself that no, this is who I am, this is what I want, and not be blown about by everybody else's opinion about who you should be and who they think you are. But I think that's the starting point. That's who the goddess sees, the real us. So
right,
and we need to get back to that spot. So yes, there's a lot of time spent there of really teasing out all the threads of that. I think a lot of us, particularly those of us who found the pagan path midlife, we're just full up with other people's opinions and other people's criticisms and belittlements, and that all sinks in. It's toxic, and this is an opportunity to dispel all of that and figure out, what do I want to keep and what do I want to discard. And so you have the power to decide who you are and what you're good at and what you're not. And that's step one.
Nice. And we actually have one of our guests today tuning in. She started following IAPN radio just today. She was over on the Llewellyn Con today, so I got to talking with her a little bit. She's from southern Minnesota. And so I wanted to, now, dear, you're going to have to give me a pronunciation on your first name, because I believe it's Quiris, I think, Quriss. I think that's how it's pronounced, but I am horrible with names. So I appreciate you tuning in, and thank you for, it's pronounced Chris. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. I am horrible with some first names. I'll see somebody's first name is like, nope, I'm not even going to try it. Because I'll destroy it. Then the other one that I had read here was Going Feral. That was a fun chapter to read.
Well, Going Feral harkens back to what I was saying about I think I've always been pagan. I just distinctly remember as a child being out in the brush, sometimes with horses, sometimes not, but feeling so energized by just the plants around me and the light and the smell. And going feral is a domestic thing gone wild. So we've all kind of grown up domestically. So if you turn us out in the pasture, we get to go a little bit wild. And going feral means learning to experience and pay attention to the energy of all the things around you in nature, and to take it all in 360 degrees, and to feel a part of that rather than a visitor to it, to that feeling of this is all one, I am part of it. It's not a park that I'm going to walk down the path and then go home.
The thing is, you also talk about plant spirit and animal spirit, and so for anyone who is really in tune with their path, everyone is well aware that we have spirits of everything around us, and we have to respect those spirits and to acknowledge their presence.
It's true. Literally everything alive, and some of the things that we don't consider alive, it all has a vibration that's scientifically measurable. So even for skeptics, there's something in all of these living things, and the energy of plants and animals. When you really start looking at plants, I'm in a very agricultural area. So one thing I particularly love to see right now, the sunflower fields are coming up. And to see the sunflowers, they all seem to be stretching up. It's like they're just stretching up and thriving. And it's like watching the life force every day, watching them grow and change. And plants, because they're so pure, that's really one of the main things you experience with plants is they're just a pure life force trying to thrive. Animals have a little bit more complicated communication, but they also have an energy and a spirit. And I've been following this program on Amazon, but it's about the Zen mind, and there's a lot of talk about how all things have spiritual energy, and honoring the sacred energy in each animal, each living thing, and to kind of break the habit of viewing me as the human up here and you animals down here. So
right. Go ahead.
But animals and plants also can be magically and symbolically reinforcing. When you learn about I share some things that are tradition with herbs and plants in the magical world, and some of the traditional symbolism of animals as well. So in addition to appreciating them, you can make use of these energies to shape where you want to go, what you want to do in life, what kind of person you want to be. If you need more courage, if you need more creativity, you can turn to these things, and they provide reinforcement.
That's true. And then when you get into talking about the elemental you, that's also an important factor as well.
I believe so. I'm old enough to have had several career reincarnations. So a couple incarnations back, I was a social worker, and my particular specialty was running workshops and helping people define career paths. Part of that was going into we called it the Kiersey test. Some people call it the Myers-Briggs test. But I had a whole lot of immersion in the concept of we have 4 essential quadrants of our personality. When I became a pagan, I realized these things connect to the elements. And I realized, oh, if you extrapolate from one to the other, we also have the 4 elements within us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's out of balance. You know, someone who's very aggressive may have too much fire element acting out in their personality. They need to pull back into one of the others. And for some people, going into the creative water element is threatening. So, you know, you put your toe in and go in a little bit at a time. But
Right.
It's important to realize that just because you haven't accessed one of these elemental parts of your personality doesn't mean you can't. You just haven't yet. So I encourage people, and I have several activities about how to explore and experience those elements within you. And because the planet is all 4 elements, another way for congruence with that is to understand and experience our own 4 elements within us.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the one running joke that we've had here at between myself and one of my fellow hosts from Pagan Coalition is that when you're in circle and you've called down the 4 elements, but then when you release the circle, the running joke is that you don't, basically, when you're saying go if you will, stay if go if you must, stay as you will, and it's like the running joke is no, you don't do that. once you release them, let them go, because sometimes I've known things to backfire. So getting in touch with the elemental you inside, and as it relates to everything around you, you really need to have a clear and concise understanding.
I think so. And I think also it's important when you're really, really new to go slowly. And things like earth, air, fire, water, those are things anybody can understand. And when they say, oh, it's in myself, it's also all around me. And the go if you must, stay if you will. It walks up to the hairy edge of being bossy in my mind. I prefer to just express gratitude. Thank you for being here.
Yep.
And yeah.
Exactly. I definitely agree with you there. Yeah. And so basically now, I know that we were having this conversation while we were offline, but what is your input on our new ones that are coming into the community that is basically being fed misinformation and just trying to jump in with both feet and not really taking the time to understand or learn?
The thing that makes this topic hard is that social media is such a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you find all these people that are interested in the same things and want to do the same things. When I was starting out, it was just prior to social media. So I had books or festivals and that was it. But the thing that gives you access to lots of people also gives you access to a lot of wrong information and hurtful or dangerous information. Mm-hmm. And I think for the young ones, and the younger they are, the more so, is to grasp the idea that everything you read on social media isn't necessarily true. Everyone who says they're a high priestess isn't necessarily so. Right. And so you have to slow down, I think, start talking to people, asking questions, and something that the pagan community seems to have pulled away from. It seems like when I first found this community, there was a lot more respect and communication with elders, people who've been on the path before you, people who are older, they've been down this block before. And I loved that. I soaked it up. More recently, it seems to be in reverse, that elders are just more of an annoyance than anything. And they just want to do things their own way. And there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, there is.
And it just seems like social media makes it worse, because if one person questions something, or one person says, well, I feel this way, often you'll have, 30 people dive onto the thread, and it becomes this big argument and this big fight. And sooner or later it becomes hurtful.
Right.
So the person who originally asked the question now feels afraid. So for the young ones, it's good to be talking to people that are of like mind, but just be really cautious that you're aware that just because you read it on Facebook or heard it on TikTok doesn't mean that it's true. It may have some value, but there may be other value as well. And I think our culture in general, we want a lot of information quickly. We want quick, tasty bites of things. We don't want to sit down and eat a whole meal and have to cut it up and prepare it. We just want the tasty morsels of pagan candy that comes on TikTok, and it used to be that people really valued reading books and digging into things and finding out and trying things out. And COVID has made this all even worse, because we can't go to festivals. They're starting back up again, but simultaneous with this explosion of things on social media is the shutdown of everything. I mean, just to go in a bookstore is a big deal now,
Right.
It seems to be loosening up some, but to the young ones, I would say, get to a major festival and talk to people one-on-one in real life, and hear what the older ones have to say, even if it's painful, but just listen. You can listen and then discard it all afterwards if you want, but the real learning, I don't think, comes in the quick, sweet, tasty morsels of social media.
You're exactly right. And now Chris has just got done saying that she is bringing in the elements even more to her work, and that she already does this, but she wants them more in her work as a part of becoming more in tune with her feral self.
That all goes hand in hand, right? Because when you get out in the natural world, you feel the air on your face, you feel the ground under your feet, you feel the warmth of the sun and the mist from the morning. I would say that part of involving those elements in your work is rooted in experiencing those elements yourself, to just get out and feel it and be aware of it and honor it. And rather, because I think a lot of people approach things like it's a cookbook, and it should be more of an experience. There are steps you follow, but when you start learning about these things, you bring things to your altar, for example, that are truly meaningful to you. This was one thing that I struggled with, back when I was learning from books, and there wasn't a lot of information available. There was a lot of, do it this way, put that on the altar, put this on the altar. Over time, I've evolved and given myself permission to say, well, what I want to represent fire on my altar today is a red lion, or what I want to represent water today is a seashell, rather than just do it exactly the way that I was told. But one of my meditations is a way to do a ritual in the morning to welcome and connect with the elements. It involves no tools, but it's just turning in your own circle to each element and drawing them in, kind of roping them around you, and then walking out in your life. And I think starting from that point of acknowledging and welcoming the elements and keeping them with you all day can keep you grounded through the day and walking through all kinds of confrontations and unpleasant situations. You stay grounded and you say, no, I'm in the center. I have all these energies with me. I'm good. So I guess this is my long-winded way of saying, if you really want to have the elements be meaningful magically, begin with experiencing them and knowing them, just like I would know my own sister. Starts there.
That's good advice. It really is, because here again, it goes back to knowing thyself. Um, that's something that everybody needs to understand, and because if you don't know yourself, you're not going to have a good experience with trying to explore your path.
I think that is like one of the key points, because what happens is, I think on some level, on some very basic level, we do all know ourselves, but it gets so piled on with unasked for input from other people in society and magazines. And I think I was watching a show this morning about young girls on Instagram developing such a poor body image that they're having issues with them becoming suicidal, and we get this message. Once we're old enough to understand words, when we're fat, happy babies, we'll go running naked through the yard with our little bellies hanging out, and we're good. Everything's good. But society squeezes that out of us. And so we get this message early on: you're not good. You're not right the way you are. You're not enough. You need to change this and do that. So by the time you're in your teen years, in your early 20s, you've been bombarded with that message so frequently. You're not okay. You're not enough. You're not right. You need to be something else. You need to look another way. You need to do another thing. That people may latch on to paganism as a way to become something else. Mm-hmm. And the odd thing is, it's a running away from themselves, but what they're really looking for is already inside them. And I think that's where my approach begins. My message is, forget what everyone told you. You are enough. You are good. You as a person, let's uncover all the layers of nonsense you've heard your whole life and get settled there. Because I have seen people in the pagan community, it's like, oh, I've found this really cool community and it's really edgy, and I just need to wear this makeup and these clothes and do these things. And it's like a compulsion to become something else rather than to express one's own true self. Mm-hmm. It's not everybody, but I do see it, to make myself look as different as I possibly can, because I got the message that how I looked before wasn't okay. So in a roundabout sort of way, you think about that from how the goddess looks at us. Well, she thinks we're fine just as we were, fat, happy little babies running naked in the yard. That is all good with her. And to be able to find that place in yourself again is a wonderful place to start from. It takes all the pressure off. It's like, I don't have to match up to any standard. I just can be me.
Right, exactly. And yeah, Chris just nailed it on the head. She totally agrees about what social media is doing to our youth these days. Yeah, Chris, I have to agree with you completely. Especially when it comes to the newbies coming into the community and wanting to dive in feet first and not taking the time to totally understand what they're doing or what they're getting into.
I think they're so hungry for something else, but they're not sure what the something else is. And paganism looks just different enough for mainstream that they think that must be it. But at the bottom of it all, it's really a separation from your own self. And so my angle is, let's not separate. Let's return to it and work with that. Because, if you look at nature, this is my response to a lot of things. Well, how would nature handle it? My cat doesn't care if he won't look good in a bikini. Care less. My horse, he knows what's happening right now in this moment. He doesn't care who's president. He doesn't care what it said on the news. He is in the moment right now.
Right.
The trees, the plants, they just want to thrive. They want to feel the sun and pull in the water. And plants are just so pure. They just be, and you have access to all of this. But the first thing you have to do is stop listening to other people's assessments of you, and to stop comparing yourself on social media. Well, this gal's got all this witchy stuff and all these cool things, and she seems to know what's going on, and she's got a love spell for this and a hex for that, and that sounds really cool and sexy. And again, here you have those sweet, tasty morsels of social media.
Right. Yep. And yeah, I know the feeling, because I have observed a lot of what's been going on, and it is frustrating for especially someone like me who's doing my best to try to convey the correct information, get people started off on the right foot, and so if they know exactly what they're getting into with exploring their spiritual path and getting back to the basics is essentially what it is. So, all right, we're gonna take a quick time out for our sponsors here, and then we'll be right back with more with Debra DeAngelo. So don't go nowhere. We're gonna be right back right after these words.
What's going on, everybody? Cloud the Pagan Rapper here, and you're listening to Iowa Pagan News Radio.
I just walked into this coffee shop. You'll never guess what I found. All the help is deeply engrossed in metaphysical science. You should too. I'm at the Egyptian, 475 Park Avenue in Idaho Falls, Idaho. You get your very own coffee for free, and we're open till 10.
Sister Moon, Apothecary and More is a collaboration of local island witches bringing you handcrafted tools for ritual, amazing apothecary, custom vinyl work, merchandise, and so much more. But we are not just an online store. We are a sisterhood, a platform, and a voice for everything that is magical. Join us for our famous Tarot Tuesdays from 11 to 4 Eastern Standard Time for a discounted reading with our amazing in-house intuitive reader and priestess, Wolf Spirit Energy, Beverly Oberlin. You can find us on Facebook at Sister Moon Store or on the web at sistermoon.shop. So fly on over and stop in for a spell.
You are listening to Pagan Artist Spotlight on the Prairie Land Radio Network and the Podbean Podcast Network.
All right, we are back with Debra DeAngelo talking about her book, Pagan Curious, and a lot of other things that we both see happening in the pagan community. That, the one thing that I definitely agree with you is that people are getting away from actually communicating with our elders that we have in the community. Because, I mean, we still have several elders that are there to talk with, and they'll be more than happy to answer questions and whatnot. I know several of them. And I've had this same conversation with a lot of people, and it's like, yeah, they want what you're calling the tasty morsels, and without knowing truly what they're getting into and taking the time to learn. And that's when myself, and I'm hoping that we have people like yourself that are writing books to really encourage people to start repicking up books and actually reading and gaining the knowledge that they need.
I think what books provide is pace. So when you learn things on social media, everything's coming at you machine gun style, all quickly. But in a book, you go slowly at your own pace and let things unfold. So if you were to do the exercises in my book, there are a couple in there that take a whole year to do, about looking in your own environment and learning to recognize the wheel of the year in nature, and learning to be so tuned in to what's happening around you that for me, you should be able to put me to sleep for 2 years and drop me in my yard at any point, and I could look around and say, oh, we're right at Imbolc because the almonds are blossoming. I know what time of year it is, because nature doesn't watch calendars. It unfolds. And I don't know what the pressure is to feel like I need to be on top of it all at once. I need to be a 3rd degree high priestess in a month. Like, let it unfold, give it some time, and learn to crawl, and then to walk, and then to run. There's no harm in taking your time and going at your own pace and developing rather than just absorbing things quickly.
Right. And Chris just made the comment, so she was talking about this the other day with someone, and she thinks it's more because our elders are told to prove things and provide sources. Then when they do, they're shut down and called names, and by so many of our younger pagans. And I see that happening on TikTok. In fact, I got told flat out that they have people that are on TikTok, they have no respect for any of our outside elders at all. It's like, then yeah, go away. Just go away. I have no time for you.
There's a huge resentment. I'm a tail end baby boomer. I still got in under the wire. There's a huge resentment of younger people for that era, because in their mind we had it all. And honestly, if you're a baby boomer, you kind of did. It's like, if you were a teenager in the 70s, it was the best. And the people following in our wake, I understand why they're frustrated. I understand why it feels like we got everything and they didn't. And it is really hard to be young right now. It's hard to get an education, to have the money for it, hard to buy a house. It's just, everything is so difficult. And the situation with the school nightmares with the guns and all, we just didn't grow up with that. It just seems like young people, they're getting it from all directions, and they need somebody to be angry with, and they're angry with our generation. And I hear that. But if you throw it all out, you're also going to throw away the knowledge that we got from the people that came before us. There's like a legacy of information and wisdom and knowledge that we gathered. And even though they think we're horrible, try and separate that out. Like, listen to what I have to tell you, even while you're thinking that I'm horrible, because there's going to be something in there that is valuable to you. And it's difficult. I mean, I think young people do legitimately have things to be frustrated about, but I guess that's where, you gather with enough time on the planet to recognize that, okay, I may be really angry at you right now, but I hear what you're saying and I understand that has value. But I also like what you were saying. If they see old person, boom, they shut it out. I don't want anything to do with you because you ruined my planet, you ruined my future, you ruined everything. And we could go on that topic forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, I know. And it's like what Chris just got done saying. There's so much that our elders can teach us. And, even though you and I have been in the community about the same length of time, there is still so much that we can learn from our elders that who there's a lot of elders who I very much respect, and I take advice from, I take information from, and having that friendship and rapport with our elders is so important.
It really is, because, I, for most of my working life, was a newspaper editor and in the world of print journalism. And I wrote opinion columns, which means essentially I wrote a weekly column. Every week you're living with your fists up. And I used to have, one of my favorite sayings was, if half my audience isn't mad at me at any given point in time, I'm not doing my job. So I left that field. And when I left that field, I really turned to the books and to the writing. And I had to reevaluate, what kind of person do I want to be? And I looked at the elders that I have met, the ones I know, some of them I haven't met, but I started reevaluating not just what do they have to teach me, but what kind of person do I want to be in the world as a pagan?
Mm-hmm.
And the people I thought of course, Silver Raven Wolf, because the way she welcomes people, it's like, yes, that. And another person that inspired me was Selena Fox, who I've met multiple times. And
Mm-hmm.
Selena always has that big booming hello, you know, she's like a human hug on legs. And
Yep.
she welcomes everybody in. And I thought, I want that, you know. And then I've had some wonderful opportunities to learn directly from elders at some of these festivals, which is why I hope the young people will get to the festivals again. I remember taking a workshop from Margot Adler, and we came in and she said, today, I don't want to teach, I just want to sing. And we spent the whole time doing all these songs she had made up, and they were wonderful songs. But from her, I learned that really joyful heart, and that, well, I don't care what we're supposed to be doing, but I want to follow my own spirit. Today, we're just going to sing, you know? And so I started adding up, who do I really admire? And the people in the pagan community that were my elders were the ones that welcomed everyone, were the ones that made you feel like you belonged in that room. And the ones that made me feel like, I don't know if I'm accepted here. I don't know if they want me here. I thought, I don't want to be that kind of pagan. I don't want to be the one that says, you have to go through a lot of steps before I'm going to give you 5 minutes of my time. Another one is, although he's not my elder chronologically, but I think of Orion Foxwood. He's always joyful, always joyful. And you feel like when you're in this big group, crowded, full of people, it's almost like you feel like he's talking to you. Like I'm speaking right into your heart. And just so openly joyful. And after 26 years of fists up, claws out of journalism, it's like I wanted to turn that corner. And it was the pagan elders, particular ones, that inspired me. Now, without them there setting that example, it may have taken me 10 years longer to figure out where I was going if I got there at all. But because we have our elders with us still, we can see what decisions they made and what they did with those decisions and what directions they went in. And it gives you options. Like, I like the way this person operates in the world. I like the way this person treats people. And from that person, then you say, you know, because I like the way you treat people, I do want to read your book. I want to take your workshop. I want to try some of the things you're telling me and see if those things resonate with me. You can't get that off social media.
No, you can't. And another elder who you've got to meet, and that's old Oberon.
Oh, I've met Oberon. I have one of my most cherished pictures at my first book party with Llewellyn is I'm sitting next to Oberon and Lon Milo Duquette, and we're all eating pizza. And that I think was just like, I'm smiling from ear to ear just thinking about it. But yeah, they just have that calm, grounded energy. Like, you know, I know a thing or two about this. And I mean, Lon Milo Duquette knows. I have his tarot book, his most recent tarot book. He is a very intellectual person. He knows. I mean, he's one of the greatest pagan minds out there, and a wonderful singer too. But to talk to him, he's just so down to earth and so friendly. And I'll sit down here and talk with you. And I really appreciate people that are full of knowledge, but they don't hold it up over your head, so you have to jump at it and grasp at it. It's like, no, I'm just going to hand it to you. I just take it right out of my hand. And I think there's so much room in the world for kindness and compassion and patience. And that was my initial experience with paganism. And it seems to be leaning away from that.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad. And there's a lot of attacking of people. And I watched a video of a young woman who seems to have made it her hobby to attack Matt Oren, who's a very successful writer right now. That's what she does. She attacks his books and tears them to pieces. And I read things all the time I don't agree with, pagan and otherwise. If I don't think I can find any value in it, I just don't read it. But I don't need to elevate my own ego through trashing other people's work. I can just say, yeah, I have a different perspective and leave it at that, because somebody else may love it. But who am I to say that that person's perspective is wrong? So
true, very true. And it goes back to the old saying: take in what is relevant to you, toss the rest out in the trash.
Right. That's really how I roll. I always say I'm an eclectic garden variety pagan, and I'm walking through the pagan garden with my little basket. I like that tomato, but I don't like that peach, and I just gather up in my basket what I like. So in my most recent book, I had a new term for that. I'm a pagan, a spiritual hunter-gatherer. I just gather up what works for me, and being solitary, I make my own decisions. Not that I wouldn't like to be in a coven or in a group, but I'm in a very small town, and it's not a very liberal town, and there's just no access to it. So I have to roll my own way.
Exactly. Now, I am putting up your links that you've got. Main one I've got put up here is DebraDeAngelo.com. That's your main website where you can find a lot of great information. And then I've also got your Facebook scrolling down on the bottom here for people to check out as well. They can find you on Facebook under Debra DeAngelo. And you'll be able to communicate with her that way. I got to say that more than that, I've spent the time talking with you and getting to know you, that, yeah, you and I are very much on similar paths.
I think so.
Because I too am eclectic solitary, and basically when people ask me what my path is, I say, okay, well, it's an eclectic path of antiquity, which means I value the old ways.
I deeply value many of the old ways. And, I have on my little goddess pantheon, I have Egyptian, I have Greek, I have Celtic. I mean, that ancient wisdom has value. And when you're a solitary, you can say, well, I want to create this mosaic of spirituality, and this is what works for me. And I think sometimes that unsettles people when they go in the pagan communities. Like, yes, there are specific paths and traditions and specific practices, but the largest group in the pagan world is the solitary group by the numbers. And you can go forward on this path and connect to people, talk to people, learn things, and create your own version of spirituality. And in my book, in many places, I say, take this template I've given you and jump off of it and make it your own. Because in my yard, like Wheel of the Year, in my yard, I don't see evergreen growing at Christmas. I'm in Northern California. I see oranges and lemons at full ripeness, So for me, for Yule, if I was going on my own environment, it's like, well, orange trees are at that time of year. That's what makes sense to me. Not what I learned, even though I value what I learned on another path. What the important thing is to understand that there is a sacred tree for each turn of the wheel. There's a traditional sacred tree for each turn of the wheel. Does it make sense in your own environment? That's one of the first things that got me thinking about it, about all of it. It's like, I have no idea what a rowan tree is. I've never seen a rowan tree in my life. But I know what an orange tree is and what a palm tree is. This is California. So I took the structure and remade it in what made sense, what was real. And so that's what I think as a solitary, you can do that, because there's nobody shaking their finger over you to say you can't. It's like, I am my own authority.
Right.
So there's a lot of freedom in being a solitary pagan.
Yep, there is, very much so. And I too know what an orange tree looks like, because every winter break, my grandparents lived down in Florida, and grandfather had 2 orange trees. So we would go down there with the motorhome, and we would come back with a tub full of oranges.
They're prolific.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we'd wind up coming home with a whole load of them. And it's like, I know exactly what an orange tree looks like. And it's like, yeah, that when you're going down there during the wintertime and being able to have a harvest, that to me was always kind of a special time, because being up here in Iowa during the winter, I mean, yeah.
my husband's from the East Coast in Pennsylvania, and his first winter out here, when he realized that all of the citrus is ripe in December, that just blew his mind. And the fact that things grow here like chard in the middle of winter, greens and spinach, full ripeness and full peak season in the winter. Where he's from, the crop is snow in the winter, and that's pretty much it.
Right. So yeah, during that time of year is always quite fun. Yeah, that's the good old days.
Yeah, you have to. I think as a solitary, you can make these things real for you, though. You know, like I'll read about. I love going back to the Wheel of the Year because it's so easy to grasp. But you know, you read the traditional lore of the Wheel of the Year, that you know the first green shoots are coming up through the snow, and it's like, snow. There's no snow in California where I live unless it's a snow cone. Like, snow's not part of my world. So, you know, if you want to divide it up into in California where I live, basically it's fire season and not fire season. That's all we have anymore.
I'll just say that, and I mean, if you really want snow, you almost have to be up in Northern California, up in the way far
up in the mountains.
Yeah.
I'm down in the valley. We don't get snow. So if we get rain, we get really excited. So.
Cool. All right. Be sure to pick up a copy of Pagan Curious. This is a fantastic book to add to any library. It's good for both beginners and also the experienced person who's on their spiritual path. It's a great book. This is one that I'm going to be hanging on to for quite a long time.
Yay! You know, I have another set of people that might find value in this book, but anybody that is feeling like they're hurting inside and separated from themselves, and they just need to blossom on their own and to break free of all the garbage that's been piled up on top of them. Anybody whose heart needs some uplifting, pagan or not, I think could relate to this book.
I do believe so as well. This everything that is outlined in this book, anybody can relate to it.
And I was also really careful to make sure to include everybody in this book. Like, if I'm talking about going out in the yard and you're in a 20-story apartment in the middle of a city, I talk about how to bring nature inside or how to go find it. And I talk about, I'll mention activities, but if you have a physical limitation, to encourage people to say, well, you can still do this. You don't need to do it just that way to still do it. But I was real cognizant of wanting there to be a way for everybody to play.
Nice. And I think people will definitely appreciate that and take value into it.
I hope so.
All right. So now you can find her book through Llewellyn, and where else can they find it through?
It's also on Amazon. It's also often in little cool metaphysical shops where you find your witchy stuff. I've spotted it in several shops. Any one of them that carries books, you may find it there. And you can always ask a shop, if you have a local shop, if they carry Llewellyn books, to order it. I think, say, could you get this on the shelf? So support your local booksellers.
Exactly. Support your local metaphysical shops, especially ones who do carry books. And yeah, if you ask them to get a book in for you, I know they'll be happy to do it for you.
Right.
All right. Appreciate you taking the time to join me this afternoon. This has been enjoyable and a lot of fun getting to know you. And I'm definitely going to be staying in touch.
Awesome. This was just really lovely and relaxed. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your kind words about the book too.
You're very welcome. And you've been listening to another edition of Iowa Pagan News on the Prairie Land Radio Network. And as always, if you have questions for us here, you can email me directly at earl@iapnradio.net or at iowapagannews@gmail. And as always, now, see how we're having some funky weather up here in the Midwest. We got heat advisories going on. So if you're going to be out and about over the weekend, be sure to stay hydrated and keep tuned to the weather as to what's going on. Keep everyone around you safe. I'm going to wish everyone pleasant journeys, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another interview that we've got coming up. I've got 2 more authors we're going to be getting to this week, so stay tuned for details on that. And as always, keep educating and keep learning. And pick up a book. You never know what you're going to be able to. Never know what you're going to be able to come up with a good book these days. Have a good day, everyone. We're going to be out of here for the day. Let's see. Which one I need?
Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. All shows are recorded and available for download at plrdn.podbean.com. All rights are reserved and may not be replayed without written permission by IAPN Radio Management. Come join us at our new group, IAPN Radio on Facebook, where you can be kept up to date for future broadcasts. Pleasant journeys, everyone.